Hello and welcome to another show. My name is Evelyn, and I am joined by my friend Dr. Claiborn. This is Mind to Mind, and we discuss about the holistic well-being of a human being. And today's topic we're discussing about love. And you know what today is? Today is Valentine's Day. Do you guys love Valentine's? I love Valentine's. I am a actually I'm a lover of love, if you can say that, if that's correct in English. Anyway, hi, Dr. Claiborn.
Hi, I'm happy to be here. Um,
Mm-hmm.
for all these years, my kids, my daughters, are 35 and 39 years old,
Mm-hmm.
and for almost all of their adult lives, I've had flowers delivered to them every Valentine's Day, and
Oh,
that's just become a tradition, and to my wife. And so they got their flowers yesterday, a day ahead
oh,
of time. And one of them lives in New York City, and one of them lives here in Kansas City. And I was just talking to Evelyn about something very special that is happening today in Kansas City. Our hometown professional football team, the Kansas City Chiefs, won the Super Bowl
ooh.
2 days ago. So it's really a very big deal. And there's a giant parade that's going to take place today in Kansas City. And normally this time of year would be snowy and cold and icy, but today it's sunny and warm, very unusual. So it's going to be a perfect day for this big parade. So that's what
Oh,
everyone in Kansas City is excited about today.
wow, that's amazing. Congratulations, guys.
And, Evelyn and I were talking, since our topic is love, we were talking, and there are different kinds of love. Well, one
Mm-hmm.
kind is the love people have toward their heroes,
Mm-hmm.
like they're sports figures or singers or actors, and so there's going to be a lot of love in Kansas City being expressed in this parade from all the people in appreciation for what their team accomplished and what
Mm-hmm.
they did for the town of Kansas City. And so that's a
Yeah.
form of love that will be expressed.
Wow. That's really amazing. You were also telling me that Taylor Swift is dating one of your guys, one of your
Yes, one of our football players has
uh-huh.
been dating Taylor Swift, and
Oh.
apparently it's very serious. Um, they've been shown in photographs and to be really romantic toward each other, and Taylor Swift has attended a lot of the games this year when she hasn't been in concert. As a matter of fact, for the last game, the Super Bowl, she was in Japan doing a
Mm-hmm.
concert, and she flew back uh,
Mm-hmm.
just in time to be here for the Super Bowl to support her boyfriend. So people are very excited about that. Even my 8-year-old granddaughter, she and one of her friends were talking about whether the football player Travis Kelsey is good enough for Taylor Swift. So they're 8 years old, and they're very aware of Taylor Swift. They think she's wonderful, and they were just concerned as to whether this man is good enough for her.
Wow.
Isn't that funny?
Yeah, that's really funny.
And since his team made it to the Super Bowl, they were
Hmm.
thinking maybe he is good enough for
Hmm.
her.
Is she good enough for him?
Now they weren't worried about that. They think she's wonderful. They know she's good enough for him.
But they're the only ones who can answer that question. I think everyone else just has an opinion, but
Uh-huh.
they are the only people who know each other well enough to know whether they are good enough for each other.
Right.
Yeah.
Very good point.
Hmm.
So anyway, Evelyn and I are excited about talking about love and
Hmm.
various kinds of love, the good things love does for us when we give it, as well as receive it. So as we go along with the show, if anybody has comments or questions, please send them in and we will answer them. And
Mhm.
also in between the shows, our next one will be in 2 weeks and it will be on ethics. And so in between the shows, if you have questions or feedback, comments, please let us know. We really
Yeah.
appreciate it when we hear comments.
Yeah. And we also appreciate all of you who have been watching. And if there's any topic that you'd like us to cover, kindly let us know.
Yes, we really are very open to suggestions.
Yes, we are. So, do you want to dive into the topic today?
Yeah, when I began to think about this the other day, I realized that, and many people have observed this before, that love can mean so many different things. And it's almost like in each case, if I love someone, I have
Mm-hmm.
a certain set of ingredients that are included in that feeling. But if I
Yeah.
love someone else, or one of my sports teams, or my parents, or my children, every one of those loves has a different makeup, a different set of parts to it. And so, we have an outline, and I think Evelyn has made that outline available. But in the very first part, and I won't go into all of these in detail, we can discuss them, but love can include affection, of course,
Yeah.
admiration, respect. Um, it can include a feeling of kinship, like we might feel toward our family,
Yeah.
our sisters, our brothers, um, our neighborhood. Um, it can be it can indicate desire and lust and uh, that kind of arousal.
Mm-hmm.
It can be spiritual. We have a
Yeah.
love can have a love that's kind of like an appreciation and a worship of somebody who guides us and inspires us.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and this is one I think we'll talk about quite a bit. But some forms of love have to do with feeling the other person somehow completes me, and I'm
Yeah.
not a complete person without them. So we'll talk
Mm-hmm.
about that,
Mm-hmm.
that type of love. Um, we can some love is like idealizing someone and putting them on a pedestal.
Mm-hmm.
Some forms of love are kind of protective, like I love my children, and partly that's a protective love. I
Yeah.
want the best things for them and want them to keep safe. And then
Mm-hmm.
there's a love that is really more like expressing gratitude, like
Oh.
I'm thankful, that kind of love. And
Mm-hmm.
so love can be a mixture of all of these things or some of them, um, because we all know that we don't love our spouse, let's say, in exactly the same way as we love our children.
Mm-hmm.
We don't love them exactly the way we love our parents, and
Yeah,
we
we
don't
do.
love our parents exactly the way we love our country. I mean,
Mm-hmm.
it's so there's different um, what ingredients that can make up the word love. The word love is so short and simple, but it's
Yeah.
so really so complicated.
Yeah.
How did that strike you, Evelyn, when this thing about talking about all the ingredients of loving?
I think one of the things that came to mind is something I came across, and somebody was saying that when it comes to, like, for example, romantic love is the only kind of love that you make a choice, because sometimes, like, we love our parents because, I don't know, like, they've been there, we found them on this earth, our siblings, we grew up with them. And yeah, of course, like, now as we are growing older, we have to choose to love them despite of, their weaknesses and challenges. But it comes easier naturally, to love our siblings and our parents and our relatives. But when it comes to romantic love, you literally choose a human being who you've never met before. Like, you have to make the choice to love this person. What do you
Mhm.
think of that?
Well, I think that you're bringing up something really good because love is a feeling, and the
Yeah.
feeling may come upon us without us choosing it or anything. But a love is also a choice. So when we initially fall in love with someone, it's mostly a feeling. But as
Yeah.
time goes on, we are going to be discovering their flaws and things
Mhm.
about them that we don't care for so much. And yet
Yeah.
we still have that love feeling. And so from that point on, it does become more of a choice. And
Mhm.
then the other thing is, love is a feeling we can appreciate when we feel it. But love is also actions.
Yeah.
We can express love. And a lot of people think that that's the most important part of love, the love
Yeah.
that we decide to give. That love not only benefits the other person, but it
Mhm.
benefits us as the giver of
Yeah.
love. And one thing I notice with people who are highly depressed is that they temporarily stop giving love,
Mhm.
even to themselves. They
Yeah.
are caught up in their anxiety and their depressed feelings. And usually it's temporary, but during that time, they don't act out love toward others as much as they usually would.
Mhm.
That's another way love is complicated. It's a feeling, it's a choice, it's actions, it's
Mhm.
how we react to
Yeah.
things. I mean, if we love someone and temporarily they're not in a good place and they treat us unkindly, we could
Mhm.
take offense of that and feel bad, or we could find it in our hearts to excuse them and understand that that's a product of what they're going through. And we might react in a loving way toward them, even though they have hurt our feelings.
Yeah. And that's usually really tricky, especially like it also boils down to how you handle disappointment, how you handle also your expectations, like how much expectations you have from this person. Because if you have like high expectations from, especially like we tend to do that, like when you're in love with someone, or even like let's say even our parents, the kind of love we have for our parents, we put them on a pedestal and we have certain expectations of them. So if they fall short of our expectations, we tend to get really disappointed, and we get angry. And I think also it boils down to you figuring out, did they really disappoint you, or did you put way too much expectations upon them, maybe more than they could handle? And
Mhm.
I think that brings the importance of self-reflection, especially when it comes to love, because that's where you build frustrations, especially if you are constantly getting disappointed. You can build frustration, and this frustration can lead to a huge argument, especially when someone doesn't understand, and also not communicating these expectations may make your partner or the person you have these expectations for confused about what it is you're fighting about. Because sometimes you can be really angry at someone, they do not understand why you're that mad.
Mhm. Love is that that's a very nice way of putting it. Love is very powerful in many
Mhm.
ways, and it reminds me a little bit about of medications. That in medicine, there's a saying that if a medicine is powerful enough to help you, it's also powerful enough to hurt you. And that's why
Wow.
we have to be careful taking our medicines. But love is very much the same way.
Mhm.
If we feel it powerfully and we allow ourselves to acknowledge it and feel it and express it to someone, well, then it also puts us in a vulnerable position of being hurt if somehow or other that other person disappoints us or doesn't appreciate what we're giving or the fact that we are loving them. Um, I think all parents know this because we love our children, but they don't always appreciate it. And
Yeah.
sometimes they may say angry or mean things to us as parents, and
Mhm.
or that they don't even like us or things like that. And as
Mhm.
parents, we try to call upon our deeper level of love to keep embracing them and caring for them, even though they may have hurt our feelings.
Yeah.
But it's not just parents and children. Yes, love can be, once we're in love or love something, even our own country, it can be very powerful because then we can also be very disappointed.
Yeah. I think that also boils down to even like sibling love and rivalry, because you find like maybe you have different personalities,
Oh,
and
yes.
there's one personality that gets a lot of appreciation from the parent, and the other one is a bit like a tricky situation that the parents don't know what to do, and that is interpreted like you are not loved, but this other one is loved more, and
Uh-huh.
it creates like that rivalry between siblings.
Yeah, parents often love their child more if that child is similar to themselves. Well, as a
Yeah.
matter of fact, that's true of people in general. We do tend to love people more or be more open to it if they seem similar to ourselves.
Yeah.
Um, so, yes, we have to be careful of that, um,
Mhm.
because sometimes parents will have children that are very different from themselves in
Mhm.
attitude or actions or personality. And it's
Yeah.
harder to maintain a loving feeling toward children that are different. Uh,
Yeah.
so that's a good point.
There's a book I was reading during Christmas, and it's written by a Ugandan lady. It's called something a family tree. It's something about family tree, and she was saying that a lot of people choose not to like choose to run away from their family members, especially when you're not aligned, or you don't have similarities, or there's something about them that you really don't like. And what she was saying about now the family tree is that sometimes the person you're running away from, you might end up giving birth to a child who has the same character as this person. So you're not dealing with this person, or like trying to shush them away from your life. You might end up having such a child, and does it mean that now you will shush your child away? So what she was saying is that like
Uh,
there are certain people in our lives that we may not like, or we don't have similarities towards, but we should always try to understand them and show them love and kindness in a way that they will understand, and also protect ourselves. There's nothing wrong with protecting yourself, but still doesn't mean you should love or care about them,
uh,
because if you learn how to live with them, you might end up, because this person is your blood relative, you might end up having a child who is somewhat similar to this other person. Then how do you deal with it? Because
uh,
it's not something you can run away from. You can't run away from your own child.
we were talking before the show started, Evelyn and I were about about hate and being the opposite of love, um, and in a way, it develops a lot of times along the lines that Evelyn is speaking of, where somebody is so different that their existence seems threatening to
Yeah.
us. And they could be a different color or a different religion, a different uh, gender. It could be anything. But we have to really guard against that because we human beings are very prone to love, which is good. And but we are also very prone to fear and
Mhm.
hate, and it takes vigilance. And like what Evelyn said about even when somebody's different, trying not to see them as threatening, but to express our love and appreciation or kindness towards them anyway. And
Yeah.
in doing that, we're not doing it really, we're not doing it for them. We're doing that for ourselves.
Mm.
Because if we are a loving, giving, kind person, we're going to be happier in life.
Yeah.
Just that's
Yeah.
just you can count on that.
Mm.
A really
That.
good movie is there was a movie recently called Mission Joy, and it was a documentary about Desmond Tutu, South Africa, and the Dalai Lama. And
Mm.
they were in this when it was made in this film. They were both in their 80s, and they just joking and laughing with each other. Of course, their beliefs were very different.
Yeah.
Their religions were very different, but they
Definitely.
really appreciated in each other the focus on bringing joy into the world, and that's how they connected. And they felt that if you encourage joy in
Mhm.
others, then you are more joyful yourself. And so
Yeah.
it's not just for other people that we're kind and understanding, but just being that way makes us a better person and happier and more content and calmer, less likely to be fearful or threatened. It's just good for us to act that way.
That's true. That's really true. And one of the things that I've learned, yeah, in my 31 years, is that like this, those people that you are afraid of and you feel like they threaten your space or your well-being just by being different, you might end up learning so much from them. And most of the time, you find that they either bring out a lot of our weaknesses, which they are good at. Like our weaknesses are mostly their strengths. Like if you really pay attention, you'll find like something you're weak at, this person, that is their strength. And maybe something that you're good at is their weakness. So that puts you on a complete opposite. But if you really pay attention, you might end up learning so much from them and how to deal with your weaknesses.
And that reminds me of that topic of feeling love as for another person as
Mhm.
that they help complete me, which is a good feeling, but it's
Yeah.
very dangerous. Also, I think
Mhm.
um, in the research, at least in our country, when people fall in love and they're somewhat similar in personality, like whether they're competitive or intellectual, or well, usually those similarities help the relationship.
Mhm.
Sometimes we fall in love with somebody who's really almost the opposite of ourselves.
Yeah.
And that kind of love, it can be very intense very quickly. And we
Yeah.
think, gosh, I'm outgoing. This person's quiet. I'm demanding. This person's very accepting. This is a perfect fit. But the
Mhm.
research shows that those couples do not last very long. That
Wow.
one person tends to get tired of the other one, or that doesn't mean that people have to be entirely alike, but there has
Mhm.
to be. The research shows that if there's some common ground in personality, that really does seem to help couples stay together for a long time.
Yeah. Wow. That's really true. You always have to have a topic that you guys can discuss together, or I don't know, a source point for conversation. It will be so weird if you guys like just sit there and stare at each other because there's nothing to talk about.
Hmm. Yeah,
Mhm.
there's then it may turn out there's very little to share. And the
Yeah.
other thing is, we talk about love languages, the way we express love, but the
Mhm.
way the other person needs to receive it, and they sometimes can be different. For example, I may express love for my wife by doing little things for her, but that's not what she wants to be loved. She wants me to tell her that I love her. So our love languages, I'm trying one language and she's wanting another language. and so they're not meeting. So one
Yeah.
of the important things couples do in the beginning is they learn each other's language of love, what
Yeah.
love means to them, not what it means to me, but what it means to the other person.
Yeah.
That
And
takes
it's
that takes a
funny.
while to learn.
Yeah. It's so funny that like it's so tempting to express love the way you want to receive it.
Say that again, Evelyn.
I'm saying that it's so tempting for one to express love the way you like to receive it.
Oh,
And
very
sometimes
natural.
yeah, and
If we
sometimes
don't know the other person at all, we usually go with what we would want.
yeah,
Very
and
very
sometimes
natural.
feel disappointed when they don't appreciate it because for you that
Mhm.
will mean like a lot if they did not receive it will mean for you it will mean a lot, but if they don't receive it the way you'd receive it or how you'd expect them to receive it, then you feel like maybe they don't appreciate it, but that's not true. It's just
Uh-huh.
that's not their love language.
Mhm.
Hmm.
And I would say that men may be a little worse at this than women in the sense of assuming that the way they want to be appreciated is the way that everyone wants to be appreciated. So, but it's in relationships, it's very important to speak up and just tell the other person, I know what you're trying to do and I know where it's coming from. It's coming from love, but I don't receive it that way that much. What I'd rather hear or have from you is this, something, this other kind of thing.
Yeah.
And men are usually able to adapt to that because they're used to receiving orders and having a manager say, here's what the expectations are and the job description. And once they know what that job description is, that's good. They appreciate that as a guide. So they're usually receptive to it.
Yeah. Another thing that I came across is attachment styles. That also affects how people give and also receive love.
Uh huh.
Yeah.
Now,
So
what
there are
makes me feel attached, and it could be my partner, but it could even feel like my country. So, what is it to me to feel attached to the United States? Well, it could be I love democracy, or it could be because there are also a lot of things wrong with our country, anybody's country. It's not perfect. But
mhm,
yeah, that's good. What does it mean to me to feel attached?
yeah.
When
It
you're,
means
let me ask you, Evelyn, when you're feeling attached to someone,
yeah.
what, if you think about it, what does that mean for you?
I tend to fall into the anxious attachment style, which I have really worked on. It's not as bad as it was before,
Hmm.
where you feel like you want to be around the person all the time.
Oh, okay, okay.
Yeah, but I've learned that's not practical at all. People need their space, and they
So there's,
also
but at first there's something about the other person being present, or
yeah,
let's say available.
yeah. I
Okay.
love quality time. I love like some like the presence of people around
Uh-huh.
me.
Yeah.
So like I get attached to like to you being around, and also I feel anxious if you're either you have to leave or you have to go somewhere and all that. So but
Uh-huh.
right now it's not that bad, but I fall more towards the anxious attachment style.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah, but there are people now who are avoidance, who they feel uncomfortable if they're around you all the time. So they so they're okay with it for just a few seconds, but the more they stay there now, they start feeling uncomfortable and they are more of like they just want to run and go somewhere else and just be alone.
Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe some people. I guess we need to talk with our partner a little bit about how much space. is good, is ideal in our relationship. Uh,
Yeah.
and everybody's different. Some people need almost no space. They can be
Mhm.
together in almost everything. Other people need quite a bit of space.
Mhm.
Um, that would be one thing that would be worth talking about. How do we define our love? Um,
Yeah.
in space, attention, um, togetherness. How much togetherness do we need? Do we need to have the same attitudes? Do we have to have
Yeah.
the same religion?
Yeah.
Uh, yeah, all those things are worth discussing.
Yeah. And you see, when it comes to attachment styles, you find that there is secure attachment style. That is where you're okay with being around people at the same time. You're also okay being away, and that's like, and you're comfortable with people having to go. Like, it's not something that will really trigger anxiety or fear or anything. Or you being around people, you being around people shouldn't make you feel anxious or afraid.
Hmm.
And that is secure attachment style. But there is the insecure, the insecure attachment styles. That is now the avoidant, the fearful, and the anxious. So, and I think we've really explained like now some of this. And we should all strive towards being secure, where you're okay with being around someone and you're also okay being alone. Yeah.
I think it's all right to tell the other person, here are some things I need to feel
Yeah.
secure, even if I'm not really proud of them. And
Mm-hmm.
I wish it wasn't quite so much that way, but right now that's how it is. Maybe I've just come out of a divorce and now I'm in
Mm-hmm.
a new relationship and I
Mm-hmm.
haven't had a chance to really get over that divorce completely. And so I'm
Yeah.
going to need more attachment and involvement and reassurance in the first few months of our relationship just because of where I've come from. But
Yeah.
hopefully, as time goes on, I won't need so much reassurance, and
Yeah.
that's what I'm trying for. But that way, the other person would understand where I am right now. Nothing wrong with that.
Yeah. And that brings me to a question. Like, how long should you stay alone after a broken relationship? Because I find that sometimes if you don't give yourself enough room and space to heal, that affects your next relationship, and you end up giving your new partner, too much responsibility than normal, than
Hmm.
you would actually require to have as your partner.
Right. Yeah, I think a certain period of time, it's not in a primary relationship would be good, and that's a time to spend with friends. When
Yeah.
you've broken up and you're adjusting to that person being gone from your life, but other people are present. Your friends are still there. Your parents, your family. So that's a time to invest in those people. Sometimes when we've broken up and we're hurt, we hang out by ourselves more, and we
Yeah.
really let our friends go, which is
Yeah.
really the wrong thing to do. We should actually be around our friends and people who've known us for a long time a lot more while we're adjusting.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's why, like, one of the things that I have really learned is learning to balance your love for every different kinds of people in your life. And that's why, even if you're in a romantic relationship, it is important to have a relationship with your family, a relationship with your friends, and trying to balance all these relationships, and also your relationship with your colleagues. Because sometimes we tend to give too much responsibility to our partner to be a friend. Like, my partner cannot talk with me, they will not understand some of the conversations that I want to have, but my girlfriends would.
Hmm.
And there are relationship questions, or I think conversations that you should have with your family that you're not necessarily supposed to bring to your relationship. And
I,
I think lack of balance in all those areas of your life ends up giving too much stress and pressure to your partner, and some of them may not be able to handle it.
this reminds me of a poster that I saw in a restaurant many years ago, and the poster said, "Love only chatter, friends all that matter." And it was saying, well, love is one thing; it's
Mhm.
shallow and undependable, but friends all that matter. And of course, I don't believe that that's true. It's an extreme form of saying this. But the point there is, our friends are much more likely to accept us. And when
Yeah,
we feel that there's another person that has rejected us,
yeah,
and we're adjusting to that new reality, it's really great to have friends around who know who we are. They've always known us. They still like us. Uh,
yeah.
it's very very therapeutic.
Hmm. And they also kind of bring a balance to your life, because if you're more prone to going towards the toxic relationship path, they will be able to point it out for you, because sometimes we are blind to some things. And I think that's why people said love is blind.
Hmm.
What do
Right.
you think?
Yeah, and love can be just as rewarding or more so when it's not blind.
Yeah,
When it's informed and well understood, and it's talked about, and it's, yeah, blind is the worst. I mean, that's a raw feeling, but
yeah,
we don't have any understanding along with it.
yeah,
Um, Let me look at our other notes, and see if there's something that comes up. Of course,
mhm,
love it can be experienced in different ways. Like it could be physical, like just a feeling, a physical feeling, or it could be emotional, which it usually is.
mhm,
Um, it can be spiritual or aesthetic. We like to love a painting. We love this painting. Well, that's not like loving a person. It's more of an aesthetic or
yeah,
intellectual kind of thing. And
mhm,
then we also talked earlier on about love can be constructive, and in most cases it is very constructive, but it can actually be destructive too if it keeps us connected to someone who is not really good for us.
mhm,
And that kind of love can be very destructive.
yeah,
I think we've talked in some of our programs before about toxic relationships, where we're in a relationship with somebody who makes us feel insecure or bad about ourselves, or uh,
mhm,
like less than who we are, that kind of thing. Uh,
mhm,
so we have to kind of be careful of that kind of love. And love can change. We might be in love with somebody where initially it was very positive and rewarding and healthy, but something has changed, and now I still feel that powerful attraction, but it's not giving me the good feelings,
yeah.
healthy feelings that it used to give me. Something's changed.
Mhm.
That can happen.
There's something I've noticed, that when you're in a romantic relationship, it tends to bring out our weaknesses, like a lot. Like you tend, like it's so much on display that you have no choice but to deal with it.
Well, we want to be the very best we can be for the person we love, and we
Mm-hmm.
all have flaws.
Yeah,
So when we're trying to be the best person we can be for this other person, we're
yeah,
going to be very aware of the parts of us that are not the way we wish they were.
yeah,
That can be true.
yeah.
And
And then
meanwhile, the other person isn't perfect either.
yeah, they're not. It's actually both ways. Like a lot of their weaknesses will pop up. Maybe some things that either they know or they're not aware of. And now and I think that this is where now self-love comes in, where you really need to learn to love yourself, work on yourself, and just be self-aware, so that like even if maybe you were not aware of this weakness and it pops up or comes out in your relationship, then you are able to work on it. And I tend to feel like the more these weaknesses pop up and you deal with it and you work on it, you tend to be a stronger person and a better person because there is continuous growth and improvement in your life.
Hmm.
Mm.
I think we talked about this idea once before in one of our programs, but hypnosis man that I worked with many years
Mm.
ago had this theory that there are four levels of loving. The first
Mhm.
level is I love myself. And this is
Mhm.
like toddlers, young children. I love myself. The second level is I love things that are mine. So I like my bicycle, my parents, my home, my
Mhm.
cat, things like that. And that's like kids in elementary school. They're at that level. And then the third level is like the way teenagers can experience love. And that is, I love you as long as you're doing what pleases me. So it's we call it conditional love. I love you, but on condition.
Mhm.
And then the fourth level is the highest one. All the levels, according to Dr. Erickson, all the levels are important. They're all good. But the fourth level needs to be present to make sure all the others are okay. And the fourth level is your happiness is my happiness. So I'm happy when I know you're happy, even though
Mhm.
you may not even be with me at the moment. And
Mhm.
some people are capable of, let's say, they can love themselves and they can love their own things, and they can even love other people if the other people are doing what pleases them. But
Yeah.
some people don't really make it to being capable of level four, which
Mhm.
is I your happiness is my happiness. So if you're 1,000 miles away from me and doing something that makes you happy, I can still be happy knowing that
Yeah.
you're happy. And that level kind of humanizes the other three levels. But all
Mhm.
are okay. All levels are all right. But the fourth level is really important to work toward achieving. And I know in my case, I had one parent who was very good at level three. So
Mhm.
as long as her children did what she wanted and approved of, she loved them. But the other parent, my father, he was capable of level four, which would be he was proud of me and happy for me, even if I was 1,000 miles away doing something that was important to me, but he wasn't even there to see it. He was still happy for me. And so I've always appreciated that point of view that we need to work toward being able to do level four, or to be
Yeah.
happy for if we say we love someone, then we need to be happy for them, even when they're not in our presence
Yeah.
or doing something we, let's say, necessarily approve of. Let's say a parent has a child who's turns out to be a transgender child and
Mhm.
wants to be the other gender. And the parent doesn't understand that, and it's a foreign concept to them, and they're very disapproving of it. But if that lasts, and that's the way it's going to be, that parent really needs to work toward not approving of being transgender for themselves, but
Mhm.
realizing that this is something that may make their child happy. And
Yeah.
therefore, it can make them happy. That can sometimes be a challenge.
Yeah. I think that falls a lot on uh, topics like sex, religion, all these things, because at the end of the day, you really don't know. You really can't control what other people will want for their lives, and
Yeah.
does it mean you don't love them because they are different from who you are or what they're doing, that you don't approve of what they're doing? So I think it boils down to what we were speaking about, just loving, having kindness for people regardless of whether they whether you understand them, whether you like them, whether you like what they're doing, just having kindness and love for them regardless.
And Evelyn mentioned something when we were talking just before the program, and that I don't know how you said it. I think you said life is short, or what was that phrase you used?
Oh yeah,
Time.
before I was speaking about, it's actually a song I've written. Yeah, it's called Now That You're Here, and we are working on it right now. So it's a song that I've written, and it was inspired during COVID, because COVID season, I saw a lot of people lose people they love, like back to back. You find like someone losing both parents at the same time,
Uh-huh.
and it got me to really think about circumstances where we tend to not verbalize how we feel about people. Like, if I love you, why shouldn't I like tell you that I love you? If I care about you, if I need to tell you that you're needed, I think the song goes like this. I'm not gonna sing, but I'll tell you the words to it. It goes like, um I want you to know how I feel. I want you to know that you're needed. I want you to know that you're loved, and I want you to know that you're worthy. Because sometimes we wait until we think we have time with people, but we are all on borrowed time. You really do not know what will happen tomorrow, and we need to learn to appreciate the moments we have with the people we love, if that is our friends, our family, and everyone that we know. Because, like, this reminds me, there's something that happened. One of our relatives actually was walking to work and got into a car accident, and just like that, like, they didn't lose their life, but it was just such a reminder, like, you could be going on with your life on a normal basis, but you really don't know what's gonna happen like next. So it's really important to learn how to show love when you have the chance. Don't wait. And I think there's something else you mentioned about expressing love, and there are people who really never verbalize it. You find that you like someone and you have a crush on someone, but you will never verbalize it. So like, you keep it to yourself, and then once, maybe one time, you're lucky if they actually ever notice. But if you don't verbalize how you feel, you will end up being a bystander or a witness to someone's life,
Yeah.
because someone else will come and verbalize how they feel, and then you end up never having this person in your life.
Yeah. Some people say that the only control that we do have is in the present moment. We can't
Yeah,
change the past. We can't determine the future necessarily. But so we, in that moment, let's say you've lost someone through divorce or something, and they moved away or whatever, and you're very down. Probably one of the very best things you could do would be to go outside and just do some act of kindness for some
yeah,
person, some small. It helps us feel good about ourselves and helps
yeah,
us feel a little more that we have some power left. We have
yeah,
some ability to have an impact. Maybe it didn't keep this event from happening, but
yeah.
still have some impact, some personal power. And that's even in little ways. It's really good to show that. But this idea of you not knowing the future and how long we have with each other is and really being conscious of that is really important.
Yeah. There's a friend who shared, and this person lost both their parents during COVID. And one of the things that he kept on saying is that, I am so glad that I was intentional with my relationship with my parents, because he used to have he used to spend time with his mom. They even had this, the mom knew a lot about his life, and he had a relationship with his dad as well. So as much as, yeah, it was really really painful for him to lose his parents, one thing he doesn't regret is the parents knew that he loved them,
Uh-huh.
he built relationship with them, he spent time with his parents. So and that got me to really think about how much sometimes you think you have time with someone, and sometimes, by the way, when you really think about, and even if you hear stories about divorce or why people separated, was one person took the other for granted. You feel entitled to their love, to them being there for you, to them taking care of you. But sometimes you forget that they also want the same reciprocation. Because you see, the moment you become an adult, your parents kind of have a choice to start taking care of themselves as well. And they will love you unconditionally, but they also have a role to play. You cannot assume that you can just not talk to your parents for 10 years and you'll show up and they'll still, you know,
Hmm.
some parents will always, they will always be there for you no matter what. Even if you decide like, I'm not going to talk to my parents for the next 10 years, and you show up, they will still treat you and love you unconditionally. But what if you end up losing them in that 10 years?
Right, right.
Are you able to live with yourself?
Some of the words you're using that I really like the best are intentional and mindful.
Hmm.
Um, one of the thing when we talk about mental health, and we did have a program on mental healthy people. Um,
Yeah.
there are people who kind of live life intentionally. They plan things, they do things on purpose, and they know what they're doing, and they're
Mhm.
mindful of their feelings or the feelings of others. And I like those two words a lot, mindful and intentional.
Yeah.
Because otherwise, we don't have to live that way, being mindful and intentional. Life will go on without us being that way, but we won't have
Mhm.
any vote in how
Yeah.
things go. It'll just be fate or the way life moves along. And so we don't have to be that way, but men- most happy, healthy people have a certain degree of that kind of being in charge of their own life type of feeling. And so
Yeah.
that is important. And how you express love, which is our topic today. I mean, you can just do random loving things as you feel like it spontaneously, or you could think, what does my partner really appreciate? And what do they call love? And can I do some of that for them? Because I
Yeah.
love them. And that
Yeah.
seems to work out much better.
Hmm.
I was just looking to see if we I think we've talked about most of the things on our outline. Oh, we
Yeah.
did. We mentioned this a little bit, but love can be focusing by loving our partner or our country or our children. It can help us focus, but sometimes it can also be distracting if it
Yeah.
is too much or it distracts us from taking care of ourselves. I've had a
Hmm.
number of clients over the years that had a very disabled spouse or child or whatever, where they just devoted their whole lives to taking care of that person,
Hmm.
and there was no balance.
Yeah.
They really went overboard. In one sense, it was admirable that they gave up their whole lives to take care of this disabled person, but
Yeah.
they could have done almost all of that and had a little bit left over for taking care of themselves too.
Yeah.
It was a little bit radical. And so
Hmm.
that's maybe another good word to keep in mind is balance.
Yeah.
And
Yes.
well, with love, I mean, we love many things and many people, so we do need to do that in balance. We can't give all of our love to one person or thing.
Yeah. And speaking of being intentional with love, we're living in a digital era right now. And one of the things that I personally decided is that I'm going to be intentional about my friendships, my family, even my love life. Like when I love the people that I love, I will call them. I won't assume they love me. Yeah, I know they love me, but I am intentional about like spending time with them, calling them, checking up on them, and finding
Uh-huh.
out how
Uh-huh.
to do it and all that. Because with the digital era, you find that people assume that that it's okay if you don't talk. It's okay if you don't talk. Like when we meet on our family gathering, that we are going to be okay,
Right.
and you need to be intentional. So that's like you don't wait until you can regret about something.
Uh-huh.
Do now when you have the chance to do it.
Right. It's very helpful, or uh, it feels really good to me, Evelyn, to have you be so aware of this intentionality at your young age. I think most people, when they get older, realize how short life is, but a lot of times younger people don't. They kind of if you ask them, they realize, yes, I'm not going to live forever. But mostly their consciousness is, I've got plenty of time. I've got endless years to do whatever. And you don't really. And so it's really heartening for me to hear you kind of acknowledge to yourself that, you do need to do things in a timely way if they're important.
Yeah, yeah.
Next time, we're going to talk about ethics, not
Mm-hmm.
in an abstract, legal kind of way, but just
Yeah,
in a very human, personal way. And I think it relates a lot to how we've talked about expressing love,
yeah.
but the ways that, we encounter ethical dilemmas in life, and then
Mm-hmm.
kind of ways that we can sort out um, and navigate those problems. So that's what we'll be talking about. So if anybody has questions about that, but even ahead of time, definitely let us know.
Yeah, this has been amazing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah, it has been really amazing, and I think we should keep on having such conversations
Uh-huh.
that are helpful on a day-to-day basis. And if you have any question, like we are live on Facebook, Twitter, um, uh,
Uh,
YouTube,
YouTube.
and LinkedIn. So if you have any questions that you'd like to ask, kindly ask or leave a comment down below, because the videos are available for you guys at any time that you are available to watch it. You can share to your friends and family. And yeah, do show us that love that we're speaking about as well.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe one thing you could do as an exercise is to think of your love for any particular person or thing, and then go down our outline, and is it what is it made up of? Is it admiration or desire or gratefulness?
Hmm.
It just is an interesting exercise to see, when you say you love this person or thing, what
Hmm.
what are you really meaning? It's good to know. We can
Yeah.
learn about ourselves that way.
Yeah. True. That is true. I think let's wind up the show.
All right. I look forward to seeing you all in 2 weeks,
Mhm.
and it'll be fun as usual.
Yeah. Thank you so much for watching. Bye bye, guys.
Okay. Bye bye.